Hello everybody and welcome to another Beyond All Reason video. Today we are on Tundra with two players today. Our first player in red down at the bottom here is Joisco, and their opponent today on the opposite side of the map over there is Akumar. Now for Tundra, you've seen it on the channel a couple of times, but not like this. So this is one of the central start positions, and off to the left is a low ground path with a double mechs, triple mechs in the corner leading off over to the opposite side of the map. There is a high value metal point in the middle there as well. And as we zoom on over here, we see another potential start position just there with ramps to the water below, so very careful not to have amphibious pushing you, and then a last start position here. Now these hills are important because if you are vehicles, you cannot transverse over them whatsoever, and they make it very useful to play as bots. Now, moving on to the actual river, this is the main split-in part of the map. This metal point right there is a high-value metal point, and there are 4 of them on this map, with another one just here. And just off to the opposite side, directly behind it, is the last one. And as the players first send out their first scouts, let's switch over to the main camera and have a look at what they're doing. And so we're back on the normal camera now as the scouts make their way out. Akumar with the first scout of the game, Rover being a vehicle lab, and Joisco going bots here. It attempts, well, I guess a single shot on that metal extractor, but Joisco playing it very safe in this early game, going for defenses. Bear in mind that, of course, he does not have scouts being Cortex, so he is limited to only using grunts. So staying on the defensive and killing these harassing rovers is a good call. Now, using a con already, 2 cons to expand, and keeping his commander in base is a strategy we're seeing a lot more these days. He has already got a solar as well, in case that wind fluctuate. Now, to their opponent on the opposite side of the map, Akumar going for a different approach here, leaving 1 con in base in order to assist the factory. And the second one, I'm guessing, once he actually tells it what to do, will start heading its way out to build more stuff. Meanwhile, Akumar's commander is pushing far left, probably going to end up around here, this high value metal point. Now, this does mean that his commander is going to be very far away from the right hand side of the map, which is, of course, where Joisco is. Joisco could push quite strongly towards here with his commander, and that would put pressure, forcing Akumar's commander to move across, and whilst he's moving across, he's extremely exposed. However, Joisco could push heavily down this right hand side here, and the commander will be nowhere near to assist and defend. Not only that, but the high ground that we mentioned earlier on, this hill, vehicles are not going to be able to go anywhere near that at all. So it provides a big advantage for Joisco with his decision of factory early on. And we can see there that a 1v1 grunt versus blitz literally has the blitz at 50% health. So it's going to be hard for Joisco to push in against blitzes. He's going to need to use that height advantage where possible. Even getting thugs or rocket bots up into these hills is going to be difficult for Akumar to deal with. We can see Joisco actually retreating his grunt up the hill here in an effort to avoid the blitz. Fortunately, though, he doesn't seem to be paying attention to that one anymore, and oh no, he runs up the hill. Good. Akumar slowly expanding, a single grunt doing what it can, but not really able to get any more. These grunts as well aren't really going to be able to get any value versus that many blitzes. And it seems that Joisco is aware of that, deciding not to go in. May be able to pick up this metal extractor though. Unfortunately not. As we look up here, we can see Joisco pushing off to the side as well. Happens to be the exact same side as Akumar, but because he was positioned further away, he's got a lot further to travel to get to this extra metal point, and that is going to be the most important part of the map, is who controls those metal points. Akumar splitting up his blitzes a bit too much there, and because of that, it was in essence a 2v4, and the grunts ended up coming out victorious. Well, a sneaky grunt has managed to get around the back. Oh, he's definitely been spotted though. Now, being vehicles, he does have the opportunity to go amphibious here. You barely ever see it. But there are big empty areas back here, and no one builds sonar, so you could quite easily sneak stuff up around the back and be in your opponent's base without them even knowing. We look in the base here, we actually see a con turret assisting the build of a con turret with an extra con turret going down, so triple con turret already for Joisco. Energy storage going up, and the opponent's base only has a single con turret so far, with windmills going out around energy storage. That looks like that's some form of blueprint. Although probably not, seeing as the energy storage was already there. And still just building blitzes. This grunt is perfectly safe in its position there. Grunt does go to try and stop the laser tower getting built, and it does succeed. And these blitzes are really struggling to catch up, stop this grunt getting the kill. And the grunt does manage to get the con. That is a big loss, especially for a single grunt. That is insane value. Although then throwing away 2 additional grunts. But this is good harass from Joisco, kind of just attacking everywhere, using that maneuverability as well as he can. Actually trading favorably against the blitzes there for a moment at least. Blitzes do need to just keep chasing down the grunts. This grunt moves into LLT range and does not get the metal extractor in time. There is an extra grunt here, but with all the LLTs going up to defend, it's not going to be able to get too much value. And you can see now Joisco just getting chased right off with all these blitzes. For offensive purposes, the grunts work pretty well, but when it comes to defense against blitzes, he needs something a bit more, or maybe just more blitzes, more grunts rather. Oh, the self-D manages to take out 2 of the blitzes. Again, those that aren't aware, self-destruct of a laser tower does provide a larger explosion, and thus can take out quite a few units if you can time it right. The biggest caveat there is timing it right, of course. Well, this blitz is just left to go free. And if it goes over here, it's just going to get killed by laser towers, but there we go. Joisco there to defend the LLT. Leaving 2 left, but 2 would be enough to take out a single LLT, but when there's a double there, it will not get killed. Resbot also here, ready to resurrect the metal extractors. Akumar missing out on an opportunity to kill the expansion constructor there. Looks like he noticed and managed to turn around in time. And there we go, he does manage to get it. However, there is a Resbot very close by, so the bonus of having to have the con walk all that distance, not really there. And the first high value metal point goes to Joisco. Akumar about to get the second, and this third one over in the middle is pretty much up for grabs at the moment. Joisco ahead though when it comes to metal extractors. Well, at least metal produced was Joisco advantage. Now it's just switching over. Energy production, Akumar is dragging behind a bit there. 60% difference in energy production, to the point where Joisco's actually started on a second factory. As we can see here, he's actually started building a vehicle plant and invested some of his metal into additional solars for when the wind died. Meanwhile, metal produced is a 1k advantage to Joisco. But army value is pretty neck and neck right now. We're talking like maybe a couple of units in it, and probably just due to these pounders. Armed metal extractor and a flame and an LLT here, as well as the army, will make short work of Akumar's army. And now the chase begins. Does Joisco carry on the push here, or does he hold off for a bit? It looks like he's deciding to hold off. He has 2 resbots there ready to go with 800 metal on the field. But looks like he's deciding to res it all instead. Meanwhile, that res guy, constructor, gets killed again. And actually, this time we see Akumar was attempting to kill the wreck, but instead deciding to change his mind. Self-destruct attempted again, but alas, it was too late this time. There are plenty of forces here, though, to kind of stop this push getting through. Running into an LLT will make short work of these raiders. But they still did manage to get 1, 2... 2 metal extractors and a con. But there's a lot still to be worried about. 17 blitzes making their way towards Joisco's base, but at the same time we see a bunch of grunts on the hill here. Not really going to be able to do much. They're going to try and kill these LLTs on the other side and make up a bit of a hole on the right hand side. But that has left a large quantity of reclaim. 700 again, right outside of Akumar's base. High value metal point is safe, and now we see this fight just outside of Joisco's base. Still a mixture of blitzes, but with Joisco now throwing in some brutes, Akumar is going to need to start investing in higher value units instead of just continuing on with blitzes consistently. We do see that. Some Janices starting planned. And Joisco does manage to deny this far right-hand side extra metal extractor, as well as killing a constructor that was on its way there. With Akumar being vehicles, this is going to require him to drive a guy all the way there. Now, we could air transport, but we'll see if he actually uses that. Meanwhile, Akumar has been doing well. His metal second is currently quite high. Does look like he's going for reclaim over here rather than directly outside of his base. Metal produced is still advantage Joisco at this point. And meanwhile, bombers are starting to come out for Akumar. But at the same time, air already planned by Joisco, and going straight into fighters. It's almost like he knows that there's fighters around, bombers coming. He does have this grunt here, but that would not provide the vision required to see air. But if you played enough 1v1s, you know at some point your opponent is going to go air, and at some point they're probably going to try a bombing run. If not, as a Cortex player, you would probably be going for shurikens. So you'd want to go for some sort of air regardless. And we see a good chunk of bombers, 7 bombers with some scouts going with them, but no fighter support whatsoever. And the bombers actually being kind of split up into 2 sections here. I think this is completely like not intentional whatsoever. But enemy air spotted will have now just been notified, and for Akumar that's not gone well because fighters are already on the bombers. Will they be able to get any value? Oh, that's a lot of windmills dead. Was it enough for 8 bombers though? Not really. At the same time, we see Joisco making good use of his terrain units by sitting them on the side of a hill, even though there's some vehicles there. Resbot's in with the army, trying to heal up stuff. But Akumar has a difficult position here. He needs to maintain forces at the front and on the right-hand side. But if he moves too many forces here to the right, then Joisco can move forces around like this and end up making a hole. Akumar needs to pick an angle to defend. He needs to defend as far up as he possibly can. He needs to defend up here, so he's limiting his opponent's options. This push through gets absolutely destroyed by these two Dragon's Maws. And that's 1.2k metal now on this right hand side that Joisco can just eat up. And we see exactly what we're talking about. Akumar positioning his forces like this instead, blocking off that left avenue. It does mean that forces can push towards his base quicker, but he's hoping that his units come out and defend his base from that angle. Meanwhile, a lot of wreckage to be had over there. 600 here, 600 over by Joisco's commander, who's built a massive wall of LLTs. Meanwhile, Akumar has gone to Tech 2. How much value will he get from that? That is the question. He's already started building up his metal extractors. But a big problem here for him now is on this left side. He does not have radar vision there, or even in the center. He has no idea what's coming. But on the right-hand side of the map, a huge force of Joisco. 62 units are making their way down on the right-hand side of the map. And now Akumar is panicking. He knows he needs units drastically and reclaims the Tech 2 lab in order to try and push out as many units as possible, as quick as possible. He just needs forces here to defend. He cannot move this force at the top. This has to stay here. Otherwise, this force of red Joisco's units can just move freely. But the swarm of red units making their way across the side is going to be difficult for Akumar to stop without pulling those forces back. Akumar's commander, again, off to the left-hand side, completely unable to assist in defending the base. And here come the grunts piling over the hill. Oh, surprisingly, Joisco being hesitant here, not willing to fully commit. And surprisingly decides to turn around. I don't know why they didn't just double down on all of these forces. They had at least, 48. And now I actually see Akumar has pulled off a big chunk of centralized forces off to defend against the right, leaving their front very, very exposed. And now due to that, they're not able to contest this angle, leaving Joisco free to move around on the left if he chooses to. And now it's kind of becoming a bit of a pincer attack on Akumar with forces to the left and right. Some blitzers and incisors almost make it through the defensive line along the bottom. Well, a single grunt has managed to make it, but not for long. And he's dead. But Akumar's comm forced into the water, with Joisco barreling down now on the left-hand side, moves all forces that were in the center to defend the left-hand flank, leaving the entire center of the map open for pressure. Not only that, with the large quantity of vehicles in Akumar's army, Akumar cannot move forces over the hill to defend this. And Joisco is just going to push straight down the middle while applying pressure to the left. Now Akumar is hoping that this pressure on the right hand side will force Joisco to move to defend. But not enough pressure being applied here. These two Dragon Maws enough to keep Akumar at bay. And the biggest problem here for Akumar right now is that Joisco now has basically full control over all of the high value metal points. All of this is the only section that is capped by Akumar. Everything else is empty. No metal extractors, no nothing. And Akumar, really short on vision, could really do with a radar up here to provide a bit of additional vision. Akumar confused as to where the army went, sending this big blob of 37 units up towards Joisco's commander. There are a lot of LLTs here, but LLTs don't do too well versus stouts. Surprisingly, Joisco did not take the opportunity to push straight down the center. Seemingly because Joisco has decided to go Tech 2 himself. But with a lack of energy, LLT is unable to fire, almost times a self-destruct on the LLT there. But the shurikens coming in will be a massive force multiplier and will be able to stop this push. Akumar with no air left anymore, no fighters to defend, or any form of units to kill these shurikens. And that's going to be a big donation of metal. 2.8k of metal on that left-hand side. And the Dragon Maws surprisingly doing decent against what's here. And a lot of construction turrets in the center. I don't think I've ever seen someone play 1v1s in essence if you were playing against AI. Oh, the entire right-hand side being told to group up in the center. I think this may have been a mistake on Akumar's side. He may have just selected all stouts and told them to group in the middle. But this has got quite a few of them caught out, and now they're going to just walk in behind and get caught by the shurikens. Army value is not looking good for Akumar as he throws away even more tanks. And Joisco in a very, very strong position. Metal a second though is still pretty close, but that's just due to the fact that Akumar started Tech 2 first. Metal produced though, Akumar also producing more, but you can just see how much he's lost if army value is this different. Now with Tech 2 on the field, Joisco at 130%, and it's going up of army value. Akumar does not really have anything to stop this, starting his own Tech 2 with some Jaguars, but yeah, there we go. Akumar realizes that he is so far behind, pulls the GG, and there we go. Joisco winning out the day. Great control of multiple lanes, and maybe the wrong choice for units for Akumar to start with. Wasn't really able to make the most of those vehicles. But thank you all for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.